This week there has been some shots between Israel and Syria on the Golan Heights border. Press TV reported that Israel was allowing the FSA to use the Golan as a safe haven, and indeed there are battles raging between the Syrian army and the insurgents in the area. A mortar landed in the Golan Heights near an illegal settlement. It is impossible to ascertain if it was a government or rebel mortar, but the Syrian tanks did cross into the demilitarized zone for the first time since 1973 and stayed there for 3 days. The Golan Heights is not Israeli territory. It is internationally recognized Syrian land that was occupied by Israel in 1967. It is not in Israel's interests to start a war in Syria. They would much prefer things to go as planned and Syria destroy herself. Israel could have started a war with Syria over the tank crossing the demilitarized zone, but instead went crying to the UN that did nothing. But Israel has to save face and act provocative lest it be seen as weak. For this reason, they claim to have fired a warning shot at Syria after the mortar fell. Later, they claimed to fire a missile and score a direct hit against Syrian mortars that almost hit an Israeli patrol. But Syria denied that any military vehicle was hit. The latest lie is that Syria has backed down at the UN. If we recall, Turkey tried to claim the same thing after its border incident with Syria, only to be exposed as a liar. The fact that the Syrian insurgents and Israel are jointly attacking Syria give credence to everything I'm about to say in this pre-recorded video. Hi everyone, it's Syrian Girl here. This video is going to provide unequivocal factual evidence that the FSA or SNC or Syrian rebels, whatever their name they're going by, basically the Clinton-sponsored opposition in Syria, are on the same side as the Zionists. I've previously done a similar version of this video explaining the contents of an article that I wrote about the subject, but I thought I could do a much better job with adding graphics and video. I really must stress this point because so many so-called anti-Zionist groups have been tricked into backing a Zionist agenda in Syria under the disinformation that Israel secretly wants Assad to stay in power because it's safer for Israel. But the evidence that I'm about to show is hopefully going to put all that to rest. So, here we go. Starting from the very top, the Zionist lobbyists are supporting the insurgency inside Syria. Well-known Zionist philosopher Bernard Henry Levy has met with the FSA or Syrian insurgency, and he was also behind the war in Libya. He was one of the spearheads of the NATO aerial bombardment of that country. Also you have Joe Lieberman, another well-known Zionist lobbyist, who also met with the FSA in Turkey, as well as the SNC, the Syrian National Council. This SNC puppet regime that the US is trying to install in Syria has made no secret of the fact that it is pro-Israeli. One of the SNC members, she was the spokeswoman for a while, Basma Kodmani, who also attended the 2012 Bilderberg conference, actually was on a French talk show saying that Israel is needed in the region.
Voilà une société qui avance, qui s'organise efficacement, qui d'ailleurs se critique ouvertement, c'est la société israélienne. Alors nous n'avons pas ça du côté arabe. Et nous avons compris du côté arabe, beaucoup de gens ont compris que nous avons d'abord besoin de ça. C'est pour ça qu'un boycott, tout cela. Mais il est vrai que nous avons
besoin d'Israël au Proche-Orient.
Nous avons absolument besoin, bien entendu.
Pourquoi?
Other leading figures in the US-sponsored opposition have declared a desire for an alliance with Israel once they're put into power. In an interview with Israeli Channel 2, Sheikh Abdullah Tamimi, an exiled imam from Homs, said that Israel is not the enemy. And he then proceeded to request money and military support for the revolution.
Abdallah and Israelis ask themselves, if President Assad is taken off power, will the Sunni majority make peace with Israel?
Now, every Syrian man, every Sunni Syrian man, looking at Israel, and this is the reality. Israel, it is not our real enemy. and it's never been our real enemy. That's the media of the regime. Every Sunni know this reality very well. And we all know now, we are in the same front with Israel against this barbarian killers. And we are calling the state of Israel to support the demands and the rights of Sunnis in Syria and Lebanon to get their freedom.
We all remember Syrian Dani Abdul Dayem, the unofficial spokesman for the FSA, appearing on CNN, basically begging Israel to attack Syria.
We take help from anyone. Israel, we don't care.
We're asking anyone for any kind of help.
Even the Israelis.
Even the Israelis. Some guys say we don't matter. It doesn't matter. The Israelis coming.
And the sons of exiled former leaders in Syria have tried to get a slice of the power cake by declaring their support of Israel. Ribal al-Assad, the son of exiled former vice president of Syria Rifat al-Assad, publicly stated he wants peace with Israel. And also the son of the former Syrian prime minister Nafal al-Dawibi, also in exile, said in an interview on Israeli radio that the Syrian people want peace with Israel. Itzhak Herzog, who was an alternate on Israel's Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, said that the Syrian opposition leaders secretly told him that they want peace with Israel after the Syrian president is deposed. Another Syrian oppositionist, Abdul Hamid, spoke to Israeli media Ynet News about future peace with Israel. He also worked for the Brookings Institute, the think tank that planned the war on Syria. It's always claimed that Israel fears an Islamist threat. However, the Muslim Brotherhood, the biggest group in the opposition run by Clinton, has publicly stated that they want a negotiated settlement with Israel. And the Israeli government themselves have said that they would like to see the fall of the Syrian government. Israeli President Shimon Peres said that the world had to get rid of Assad. Israeli Vice Prime Minister Shawal Mufaz urged the world powers to mount a Libya-style regime change in Syria. And Israeli Defense Minister, the infamous Ehud Barak, called for the world to act to remove Assad.
Anything from providing them with weapons to creating a free areas along the border so that people can concentrate there. The toppling down of Assad will be a major blow to the radical axis, major blow to Iran.
It doesn't require much thought to realize that breaking up Syria and Iran ties and weakening Syria's military is going to be beneficial to Israel, Syria's longest-standing enemy. Israeli Intelligence Minister Dan Mirador has supported attempts to overthrow the Syrian president, arguing that it would break Iran-Syria ties and hence be beneficial to Israel. An Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister, Dani Ayalon, accused the world of wrongdoing for failing to act against the Syrian government, and then offered Israeli assistance for Syrian refugees, a thin euphemism for arming insurgents on the Turkish border. Meanwhile, so many Israeli weapons have been found in Syria being used by the insurgency. But you still have people who insist on the delusion that Israel has no stake in Syria, that they do not want to see the Assad government fall. NATO and Israel rely on this myth, because without it they would have a lot of trouble getting new recruits from foolish people who don't realize that they're serving Israeli agenda. In fact, this was spelled out explicitly in a US intelligence document called Guide to the Syrian People, where it is said the conspiracy theory that Assad is secretly allied with Israel can be exploited to create a civil war. But after this video, I hope it is crystal clear that it is the opposition who are in league with the Zionists. Israel occupies Syrian land, the Golan Heights, where Syrian people still reside. Allying with the Zionist entity is pure treason in the highest form.